Hello everyone, welcome to GS Core. So in our series of the coverage of daily current affairs through the MCQ, we are going to take up 5 questions based on today's current affairs. So let us have a glance at the topics that we are going to touch upon today. The PMLA, that is the Prevention of Money Laundering Act, and the relation of Enforcement Directorate, because the Delhi CM has recently been arrested under this act. Next is about the concept of flash PMI, right? The PMI and the difference between the flash PMI, what is it, right? That is the purchasing managers index. Next is about the modular nuclear reactor, right? Because they are being looked at as an intermediary between the renewables and the idea of power generation for an energy hungry country like India. The next is about the self-regulatory organizations, right? And recently the omnibus framework has been finalized by the Reserve Bank of India for the self-regulatory organizations for its regulated entities. And last but not the least, we are going to talk about the bioplastics and the effect of environment, because the Environment Ministry has introduced rules that make harder for makers of disposable plastic to label such plastics as biodegradable. So let us quickly jump on to the very first question that we have for us today. So like I said, it is about PMLA. The news was of the Delhi CM's arrest, and PMLA is being talked about in multiple other cases, right? So if you look at the concept, skills and approach of this particular question, right, the concept here is money laundering and the legislative legal framework for its regulation. Now it brings us PMLA, the role of Enforcement Directorate. So obviously the provisions, the powers, functions, mandate, right, all of these things regarding PMLA and ED becomes important. Now what is the skill? The skill which is needed here is not only the retention but also application on the lines what is permitted, what is not. Generally with regards to such acts, the questions are framed on these lines. Similar questions can be framed on, let us say, FCRA, right? This is also a very important act which is in news. Okay, so the approach to this question is always to blend the static and the application part in the light of the current affairs. So let us read the statements. Consider the following statements regarding the PMLA, that is Prevention of Money Laundering Act 2002. Central government cannot enter into an agreement with government of another country to enforce provisions of this act. That is incorrect. The central government can enter into agreement, because the money laundering is not only happening in the domestic economy, it also happens from the outside. Next, under section 45, bail cannot be granted if the court is satisfied that there are reasonable grounds for believing that he or she is not guilty of such offense and he is not likely to commit any offense while on the bail. That is incorrect. The bail can be granted. Remember, bail over jail is the norm. So there has to be cogent grounds for jail. otherwise bail is provided. Last statement, all offences under this act shall be cognizable offences and non-bailable offences. That is true, right? That is true. So if we look at the format of the question here, right, it is about how many? So out of the 3, only 1 statement is correct. Hence the answer should be option A. Option A. Remember, section 45 and its application is very important because that has been flagged in the news, right? Moving on to the next question. Flash PMI. So this particular idea of flash PMI is in news because recently the March flash PMI was released by HSBC, right, which shows a sharp spike in the flash PMI. Now, of course, the concept here is the purchasers managers index and then the difference of what flash PMI is. Okay, so if you look at the flash PMI data, it comprises responses from 85 to 90% of the total monthly PMI and is released every month a few days before the total PMI. So it is based on key figures comprising production, new orders, inventories, supplier deliveries and employment, right? So flash PMI is released before the PMI. So this is the concept. Now if you look at the skills and approach, right, the skills are pretty simple. You need retention to retain the concepts and basically the facts. So if you know these facts, then it is correct. Otherwise, you might not be able to relate. Now, because of the format, you need interlinking skills to actually identify whether these two statements are related apart from being correct or incorrect. Okay, so let us read the statements. Flash PMI is a better indicator of economic health of a country than the PMI. No, it only represents 85 to 90%. So as a concept, if you have applied it and you can identify, right, so that is incorrect. So the moment in such a question the first statement is incorrect, you can definitely arrive at the answer. Okay, so it only provides the advanced estimates. Flash PMI is an estimate of manufacturing for a country based on 85 to 90% of the total PMI survey responses each month. This is correct. So we have the statement 1 is incorrect, but statement 2 is correct. The answer is D. The answer is D. Okay. Next. Modular nuclear reactor. So if you look at the news, this modular nuclear reactor are being seen as a panacea to the intermittency of renewables and to be a base load generator, and therefore they have been in news. Obviously, India's nuclear energy space is gaining salience because the Prime Minister recently inaugurated certain core loading activities, right? And therefore it is important, which we have already covered in previous current affairs as well, right? So small modular reactors are being looked at as a panacea to the energy demands, okay, over the fossil fuels. So let us look at the question. SMRs are defined as small nuclear reactors with a maximum output of 720 megawatt electric. SMRs can be installed in a decommissioned thermal power plant sites. Now, if you look at the format, it is a standard format. That means you can use elimination. The concept, skills, and approach. So the concept is nuclear energy, right? With regards to nuclear energy, you should know what are SMRs, fast breeder reactor, what is the fuel, right? What are the possibilities, risks, challenges, solutions, and the contemporary affairs, the current affairs related to it. The skills which are needed here are pretty simple: retention and application. So while approaching these, you have to approach this in the light of the current affairs. Now, if we look at the statement, the 720 megawatt would be too huge. It is rather, the limit is 300 MWE. Now, the moment I make the identify as first statement as incorrect, I can eliminate two options. Next, SMRs can be installed in decommissioned thermal power plant sites. This is correct. This is correct. Repurposing the existing infrastructure. So here the correct answer is option B. Option B. Moving further. Self-regulatory organizations. Like I said, the RBI has come up with the omnibus framework, and this framework can itself be asked in the examination, right? So the concept here is regulation in an economy, right? So it spans to economy as well as the governance landscape. The regulation is the idea, therefore it comes what is allowed, what is not allowed, powers, functions, need, significance, positives, negatives, issues, challenges. These are the concepts. With regards to skills, you surely need not only the retention and recall, but also high application skills. So while approaching such a question, look at the implications. Now, if we look at the format, it's a standard format, therefore elimination can be used. Now, let us read the statement. So it's a conceptual question, if you see. An SRO is a governmental organization under the RBI that sets and enforces rules and standards relating to conduct of the entities in the industry with the aim of protecting the customer and promoting ethics, equality and professionalism, right? If we look at this, is it a governmental organization? Self-regulatory organization. Now here is the catch. It is a non-governmental organization. Thereby RBI is coming up with a framework, right? So this is incorrect. Next statement. An SRO is constituted with the expectations to provide a link between the regulator and the market participants through a less formal setup. This is clear. This is correct, right? So comment with some SROs in the comment section of this video. So any which ways, the first statement is incorrect, so we can eliminate certain options. The second statement is correct, hence the option to mark here would be option B. Option B. Moving further to the last question. Bioplastics and effect on environment. So recently the Environment Ministry has introduced rules that make it harder for the makers of disposable plasticware to label such products as biodegradable, because that is the misinformation that is peddled by these manufacturers. Okay, so they have introduced a stringent condition that they should not leave a microplastic behind even when they are broken down further, right? So that is the key idea. Now with regards to concept, the plastics, pollution, the classification of plastics, the types of pollutions, etc. With regards to skills, since it's science and technology, so high application orientation is needed. The approach is pretty simple. You go to the concept, see the implication and application, and identify the correctness. Bioplastics are derived from petroleum. That is the first statement. So it's a single statement kind of a question. They are capable of biodegradation by biological process in any environment. It is capable of biodegradation by biological process and does not leave any microplastics. That is precisely the news was about, and hence the option should be C. Nonetheless, we should read the fourth statement as well. They require industrial or large scale municipal waste management facilities to be biodegradable. Then it is clearly not biodegradable. You are doing some sort of a post processing of it. So C is the most suitable option here, and it is the correct option. Well, you can find these questions and more news articles based on today's current affairs, right? The link for which will be there in the description. That's all. Thank you.